Hey guys, what's up? It's Will here once again for some fight card predictions. Here for UFC 299, Sean O'Malley against Vera 2 is our main event. A great pay-per-view and just a fight card that kind of gets the juices flowing. Like I say, I am kind of just struggling with these kind of Apex cards that they're really doing nothing for me, and it's quite hard for me to come in here and put any time into really jumping in for hours and end watching tape. But this card, it's definitely one of these ones that you look at and it's just a great fight card throughout from beginning to end. And we've kind of got a couple of good pay-per-views with that. So doing it on a Friday, not been well this week. So going to get something out there because I've had loads of people asking, are you going to put something out that I can just listen to or watch if they get a bit of free time? But I'm not going to spend all day in these fights. I'm just going to get straight into it. We are... John Wood against Marina Moroz is the first fight in here. If you've been around me for long enough, you know that I've got a soft spot for Jojo. I've known Jojo for many years. Seen her on the come up, been around her a long time. Actually walked out behind her at UFC Glasgow. I think it was the first time around against Courtney Casey, which was one of the most unbelievable experiences I've ever had in my life. And sometimes I go back in UFC Fight Pass and watch that where literally Jojo's walking out and I'm right behind her. It's one of the wildest things I think I'll ever do in my life. And you're walking out and there's like 12,000 people there. It's pretty crazy, to be honest with you. But I think our time is done in the UFC. This is a rematch from 9-10 years ago. I think she has other priorities on her mind, maybe starting a family and such. So like I say, Moroz, she's doing her thing over on OnlyFans and all that jazz. But what I've seen of her recently, even though she's taken a couple of L's, I think there's just a little bit more to Marina Moroz. I think she'll want it. She fights out of Florida. She's obviously that American top team. I think if she uses some of the grappling here, I think that she could have some success. But honestly, I think this is going to be a close run fight. And I think the right pick is on Moroz, but I would love to see Jojo go out with a win there in that one. Moving on, we have CJ Vergara against Asu Almabayev. I'm a big believer in Asu Almabayev, but sometimes I maybe get a little bit carried away with myself with some of these fighters that I watch a little bit too much of outside the UFC, and then sometimes to kind of rein it back a little bit because obviously what I'm watching outside the UFC is not of the caliber of being in the UFC. But I like a lot from what I see from Asu Almabayev. I think his betting line's a little high, like minus 550. I don't like how high that is personally. But I think he should have CJ Vergara covered here if he can get some takedowns and keep Vergara down on the ground. I think that he can have sustained possibilities of getting submission, but we have seen Vergara be very tough and dogged and kind of fight out a little bit. So if this was to get close, Vergara, his betting line, whatever it may be, might be a live dog. For me, I'm picking Almabayev. I think he finds a submission late round 3 or a decision in that one there. Despaigne against Josh Parisian in the heavyweight division's up next. I mean, there's a setup fight in the UFC for a guy that they want to win. This is probably it. Josh Parisian is, if not probably one of the lower caliber fighters the UFC has on their roster, in my opinion. And that's not saying much. Like I say, the guy's in the UFC. He's obviously did enough to get himself there. But I just think they're trying to build this guy up. Cuban background, 4-0, viral knockouts. But there's more to find out about this guy. If he's putting his back, can he last longer than 5 minutes in a fight? If Parisian was to put him against the cage, would he have trouble kind of getting his back off the cage? That's some of the question marks that we're going to have to find out going forward. But you've seen enough with the Taekwondo that he has, the power that he has, the reach that he's got, some of the attributes that he's got. He should have enough here to beat Josh Parisian. I think he should do it early. So especially being in here in Miami, a big Cuban heritage to that city, I think Despaigne comes in there and gets an early knockout in the first round. Phillips against Ion Cutelaba. I don't know how I missed this one most of the week and not really looked into it at all. I lean on the Cutelaba side. I think if he's on his game, I think that he brings a lot of problems to Felipe Lin's, i.e. takedowns, velocity of his striking. But like I say, Cutelaba is a hard guy to really cut because sometimes he can turn up looking really good. Other times he can turn up looking kind of trashy, not good, mentally not all there. But there is things to really like with the guy, and he is, I still think, a fairly young guy for the age, like 29, 30 years old, could be coming into his prime in the UFC. I don't really see it too much. But I am going to lean on the Cutelaba side. I've always had a little bit of a soft spot for him. I don't know what it is for the guy, but I really look forward to watching him fight. Just probably his intensity, the way he is, but he can take some kind of mad turns and take some bad L's, and when he loses, he usually gets stopped. So if you're on the Lynn side, you might like him maybe via submission, or maybe Lynn's catches him with a shot and knocks him out. But for me, I think that he rides another win here and it's on a 2-fight win streak. So I'll take Ion Cutelaba in that one there. Michel Pereira against Michal Oleksiejczuk. This is a tough fight, a really good, well-matched fight, but a tough one. I'm interested to see how good Pereira looks. Obviously, he's not 170 anymore. He's back up at 185, which how he got down to 170 in a couple of occasions kind of was beyond me, because the guy looks massive. He looks chiseled, looks bulked out, looks a bit of a tank. And there's a lot of things to like, considering he's changed his style up. He's not as flashy anymore, but super, super dangerous, obviously, with some super power. And this is his second fight, I believe, up at 185 after that knockout of Andre Petroski. I think he can do a little bit of everything. But what I like on the Oleksiejczuk side is just his pressure and not giving you space to get your game off. And if you give him the opportunity to get first off, getting his shots off, pressure you, just as pretty much going first in the back and forth, he seems to really dictate how the fight kind of goes. And that's what I'm a little bit worried about, because I think he has a higher output than what Pereira has, even though I think Pereira has the kind of match-defining power with that big strike, and I think he can maybe mix it up with some takedowns as well. So I've had some people message me regarding Oleksiejczuk, and I don't mind a dog shot in that. I'm just kind of gut feeling going on the side of Michel Pereira. I think that his shots will count a little bit more. I think you can see him maybe hurting Oleksiejczuk a little bit, but ultimately I'm on the Pereira side there. I think that he will win this one. And a dangerous guy at 185, definitely a dangerous guy. And if he gets a little bit of a run together, gets his confidence up there, he could be a tough guy and a guy to watch moving into the top 10 of that division. So Michel Pereira is my prediction for that one there. Pedro Munoz against Kyler Phillips. For me, I've not got a good read on this one, honestly. I've never really been super high on the Kyler Phillips hype train. There's a lot of people that really think of this guy and put him on a high standard, and that's just not really been me. Now, he's got some decent wins, Barcelos on there, Song Yudong, but for me, I'm just not 100% sure. I don't know. I've just never really been super sold on him. I don't know what it is, because he's a guy with a lot of things to like, quite fast, rangy, can mix it up very well, really good early on in fights, but can kind of fade out a little bit as the fight goes on. Where Pedro Munoz, he is 37, coming 38 years of age. Kind of not had a good last 2 or 3 years, with taking losses to Jose Aldo and Dominic Cruz, Cheeto last time out, with a win in there against Chris Gutierrez, and obviously there was that eye poke against Sean O'Malley, which I thought he was doing all right until he caught that eye poke. So it's a really, really tough fight for me to kind of really pick a side on this one here. Like I say, money-wise, if you were giving me money, I would probably take the shot on the dog. But I see this being very, very close. But I'm kind of leaning on the Munoz side. But the head's telling me, dude, I think you're making the wrong pick. Phillips should be the side here. So I'm going to trust the head over the heart in this one. I'm going to go Kyler Phillips via a very kind of close 29-28 decision in that one there. Matheus Gamrot against Rafael dos Anjos. Yeah, I think that Gamrot's going to just do enough here. I don't like the betting line. The betting line's massive, like minus 450. I think, like I say, I've seen people taking shots on Rafael dos Anjos. Now, I don't hate that, honestly, with where the line is and the pedigree that the guy has. Don't like the age. Don't like the flip-flopping between divisions. 170, 155 at that age. It's not good. And Gamrot has got one of the most kind of awkward games to kind of face, skill sets to face in the UFC. He's got an unbelievable like low pick on that single leg. Seems to get it so much very quick. Really, really good with submissions as well. And I just think that he outworks Rafael dos Anjos here, but I don't like the betting line. Gamrot, I think, is going to get himself a big fight after this, moving up into that, probably that top 5 of that division if he's not already round about that. But he's just a guy that I don't see threatening that top 5. I know he's got that win over Chookagian. To me, I still think he lost that fight, honestly. So, like I say, he's coming off those 2 wins over Jalen Turner. Very, very close fight. I remember betting him in that one there. And then I think I bet against him against Fiziev, and then obviously the injury happened there. So I just think that at this time in their careers, I think that Gamrot's just got a little bit more. He's going to have a little bit more pace to him, a little bit more pressure. And I think those takedowns eventually are just kind of work in the favour of Gamrot for like a 29-28 decision, maybe a 30-27. So Gamrot is the pick for me there. We've got Caitlin Sermonara, Chookagian, whatever her surname is now, against Macy Barber. Horrible story coming out from Chookagian if you watch like the pre-fight interviews regarding IVF and losing kids, and just a horrible, horrible thing. No, like I say, I've lost a kid. It's especially when you're like early on in infancy, it's a tough thing. And she says she's taking this fight to try and better her mental health and kind of give her mind a break. But this is not the game where you come in here and expect this to be easier than what you're dealing with in the outside world. It might take your mind off it, but you've got another hard thing in front of you there. And she's got a streaking Macy Barber who looks like she's coming into her own, nearly 26 years of age, been around the UFC for a very long time. But I can also see if Chookagian's on her game here, I can see her making this fight entirely difficult for Macy Barber, because she's got that style of pitter-patter, hit long, stay long, on the move, throw those sounds out there. It seems to really attract the judges to kind of win on their side. So yeah, it could be a tough fight. I've seen some people talking up Chookagian. For me, I really actually like the Macy Barber side, and I'm thinking about putting on a parlay with Despaigne under 1.5. So I think it's Barber's minus 188. I think it's minus 240, 250 on the under 1.5 in the Parisian Despaigne fight for I think plus 117 or something. So that's the bet I was actually looking at in the last half hour. So that might be something I jump on. I'll put that in bet on my tips. Coming off a good night last night, actually win the PFL, won my 3 bets last night on that one, plus 225 dog. Backy came through as plus 125 and I had a 113 parlay. So nice night. First good night of 2024, if I'm being honest with you, where I won a significant amount. But like I say, I quite like Macy Barber here. I think her pressure, I just don't think she's going to give Chookagian the time to really get those 1-2 shots off. And I think that she's got power on her side. And I think that eventually, I think she will hurt Chookagian a little bit, but whether she stops us is another thing. I was looking at rounds. Barber in rounds 2 or 3 by knockout is 9-1, which I find quite interesting. So I might pen a little DJ and parlay with some other guys I like in this card, and see if I can maybe hit big on one of those. But I like Barber. I think she's the side here. And for me, I think at minus 188, minus 200, I don't think she's the worst parlay piece, honestly. So just for the simple reason, I think she's found her footing in the UFC and she looks like she's kind of turning the corner. Curtis Blaydes against Jilton Almeida. I came into this one and I actually thought I was going to really like Curtis Blaydes, but I've also been fooled with that in the past, because Curtis Blaydes, to me, I thought he was going to be a great challenge to that heavyweight title at some point, and it's really not panned out. There's obviously a lot to like, especially if you're going back years, with his wrestling, his constant takedowns, and just having that like gas tank to keep going, keep doing that. But he seems when he gets to the big stage, something happens where he lets himself down, gets himself knocked out, shows some bad fight IQ, whatever it may be, the Derek Lewis fight. went there, beat Jairzinho with his grappling. Chris Dawkins got a knockout. Tom Aspinall, we don't know how that would have played out. It's a win in his record. I bet him in that spot, cashed a bet on him. But if that's elongated into a couple of rounds, he might get knocked out, he might not. But I think it's still a win over the current UFC interim champion. And he took that L to Sergey Pavlovich last time out, where the guy just didn't come out and want to wrestle and wanted to strike. We're probably one of the dangerous, most scary strikers in the UFC, and ultimately was made to pay for it. Jailton Almeida coming off that absolute snoozer against Derek Lewis last time out. One of the worst fights you can watch. There was just nothing to that fight at all. It seemed to me like he just wanted to go in there and see if he could last 5 rounds, completely dominate Derek Lewis, and he did for the biggest win in his career so far. He's also got a win over Jairzinho via stoppage, Shamil Abdurrahimov, Turkali, Parker Porter. So he's making the run up that ladder, kind of 265. He's a guy that comes in usually like 230. So he's not got he's not the biggest heavyweight, but he's very good with what he has. Obviously gets that takedown and is very heavy and very kind of systematic on top. Doesn't really give you many opportunities, but he's obviously against a wrestler here in Curtis Blaydes, who's not really known for getting taken down much. I know Volkov got him down a couple of times in that fight, but ultimately, I like I said, I really come into this one wanting to like Curtis Blaydes, but I just think that this could be Jailton's, he could come out here and stop this guy via submission, kind of rounds 2, rounds 3. So, and I'm also thinking about a bet on Jailton. He's like minus 105, but I've already got a couple of bets on here. I don't want to. It's one of these cards where I feel like I want to fire in many different directions. But like I said, I've already got 1, 2, 3 bets with another 3 prospective bets that I like in this one. So Jailton Almeida is going to be my pick in that one there. Piotr Jan against Song Yadong. Again, talking about a fan, like one of my favorite fighters. Piotr Jan is one of my favorite fighters, and I'm seeing so much talk that he's done. I really don't think he's done. I just think he's losing to some of the best guys in the division. Honestly, I think that he's facing top 10 caliber guys, top 5 caliber guys, and just losing. And like I say, he's on a 3-fight losing streak. But that Sterling one, like I say, he had every opportunity to win that fight. He really just got his back taken and really couldn't get Aljo off of it. Then he had the Sean O'Malley one. I thought he won that one, personally, going back and watching it. But I could see why O'Malley got it, because it was a very close fight. And like I say, in those type of fights where there's not much between them, you never know what the judges are thinking. And then that Merab display was just an eye-opener to anybody that watches the sport, because we've never really seen that much from a guy. And he got taken to the cleaners against Merab Dvalishvili, and he's probably, depending on what happens this weekend, he's probably next in line, could definitely be the next champion. Stopping his style is going to be really tough. So people writing off Piotr Jan, it's ridiculous to me. I've seen some crazy stuff online, and this is why I don't really say much online anymore. I don't really communicate with many people online anymore, because there's a lot of stupid people online with seriously bad takes. Not saying my takes are great, but like this guy's barely 31, 32, could yet come into a second wind of his career. But again, he's facing top 5 caliber guys. Song Yadong is one of those guys who is rising the ranks. He's been in the UFC for a long time, got himself some decent wins, and is a hard guy to face with the power that he possesses. For me, like I say, this I want to bet Piotr Jan, and I've wanted to bet him all week. I still can get a minus 110. I don't want to take anything less than that. If it goes to minus 125, I'll stay off, just because I'm a fan of this guy. But people writing him off, it's weird to me, because I think he is still one of the best boxers in the UFC. And if he doesn't get hit with some kill shots here, and shots that really hurt him in this fight, I think he runs out a higher clip winning by decision. So I'm picking Piotr Jan in this one here. I think that he wins at a decision, could win like a 30-27, 29-28, and it could end up being close. This is probably when I'm going to stay away, because, like I say, of all the guys in this card, I'm a massive, massive fan of Piotr Jan. You've heard me talk about this guy for years before he came into the UFC. A massive fan of his. So I'm going to pick Piotr Jan to win via decision. Next up, we've got the Gilbert Burns against Jack Della Maddalena. Pre-fight coming into this one, I was thinking I think Gilbert Burns has got a legit chance here. And then the one thing about doing this on a Friday at nearly 3 p.m. is you see a lot of takes, again, some stupid takes, but there is people out there you respect whose versions of the fight they give you, and you can see things. And some people out there like Gilbert Burns to get this guy down and really hunt him down there. And that will be the game plan, because I think that Gilbert Burns, I think his durability is gone on the feet. There's many things to kind of say that. He gets hit with some big shots. He gets dropped by jabs. I just think he's susceptible to getting dropped, susceptible to getting knocked out. So for me, his game plan has to come out here and try and get Della Maddalena down to the ground. And that's something that we've seen previous guys doing. Now, Maddalena is coming off that win over Kevin Holland, and the win over the two splits over Kevin Holland, which wasn't a split, and the Hafez one, which was a bit greasy. But that guy's a bit of a tank, is that Basil Hafez. And I think, to me, that Jack kind of, I don't want to say pull guard, but he just let himself kind of get taken down attempting those chokes. I don't think he'll play that game here. I think he knows he's got, if he gets his boxing going here, he's going to hurt this guy. So I'm going to go Jack Della Maddalena. I like him via knockout. And I kind of missed the line in this one a little bit. So he's like minus 175. I don't think I'm going to play that. It's probably a fight I'm going to not bet at all. Sit back and watch. But I like Jack Della Maddalena to get a knockout in the first probably couple of rounds here. But how old is Gilbert Burns? 30, coming 38. So he's been around a long time as well. I think it's just the new blood at 170 coming through. So Jack Della Maddalena for me will win this one. Kevin Holland against Michael Venom Page, who makes his UFC debut. I've never been high on the hype of Michael Page. I know as a country down in England, like London, when I've been down there on the very odd occasions, people were hyping this guy up to the nth degree. But now he's coming over, 37 years old nearly. Is this the wrong time to be coming over to the kind of the elites promotion in the sport? And you're going to get thrown in against tough guys. But in saying that, I think this is a decent matchup for him, because Kevin Holland, although he's got plenty of wins, there is mental fragilities with him where he sometimes doesn't have good fight IQ, can do some weird stuff that you don't really like to see, like pulling people up once he puts someone down or whatever it could be, or just talking too much, which has always been a little bit of a bugbear with me. But when he turns up and he gets it going, he can be a rather hard guy to face, especially with he's trying to improve his grappling. So not that that's really going to take place here, because if you know Michael Venom Page, you know he is a striker at heart with some funky, snazzy moves in there and can really land some dangerous kill shots. I kind of see this being a bit of a boring back and forth fight, but for me, I just kind of see Michael Page just doing a little bit more, and maybe Kevin Holland just letting this fight get away from him. So I'm going to lean on the underdog here on Michael Venom Page. Don't want to bet it, but I'm going to pick MVP via decision in that one there. Co-main event, we've got Dustin the Diamond Poirier against Benoit Saint-Denis, and this fight is, I think it's going to be bonkers. Like I say, before I went to Paris for the first time, obviously you watch fighters on the TV and you think, yeah, they're good and so on. And I always thought Saint-Denis was, like, he looked very solid to me initially. But when I seen him, and I know this is the thing here, he's making he's making an astronomical jump up in caliber of opposition here. He is going from Gabriel Miranda to a Bonfim brother to Matt Frivola, Bonfim to Moises to Frivola. So I've seen him 2 of his last 3 fights. And when he fought Miranda in France, I was super, super impressed with him. Really liked his performance. But then I thought to myself, it was against a guy who I think was making his UFC debut in Gabriel Miranda. Then when I seen him the next year against Thiago Moises, which is a definitive step up from what he previously faced, he looked like an absolute tank. Absolute tank. And his performance that night was unbelievable. And the 2 times that I've seen him live, he obviously puts everything in these strikes and so on and so on, because he's on crutches as soon as he comes back to the hotel. The 2 times I've seen him after he won those fights, he's back in there in the hotel in crutches, limping heavily, not in the best of, not looking the best away. But the guy is huge. He obviously can go for days. Dangerous striking, great top game, great cardio by the looks of it. But can he do this for 5 rounds? Can he do this against a top 5 guy? A top 5 guy who may be on his last legs in the game, but you have to show me, and you're going to give me plus 185 on Dustin Poirier in this spot, and he's kind of second hometown of Miami. I think he's lived in Florida for 6-7 years. And like I said, this is a step down from what he's previously faced. But there is obviously things you like in the Saint-Denis side that he could take into this fight here. Like the grappling. I think if Benoit Saint-Denis comes out and grapples heavy, I think he could have some elongated success with hurting Poirier and maybe getting that gas tank drawn down to where he can hurt Poirier. Like I say, Poirier is 35, just turned 35 not long ago. So I don't think he's done, but I definitely think he's on the tail end of his career. He's come out and said that he's not got all that many fights left. But for me, this is just such a show-me spot. When this line started to go through the week, I was very close to betting plus 150. Then I seen it go up plus 163. Then I keep seeing it going plus 175. Then it hit plus 185. I was right, I have to jump in there. If I very much don't see it going to plus 200, but if it did, I would add more. So I've got a couple of units down on Dustin Poirier, plus 185. This is a show-me spot. I think that if he can survive it early on, this is the first southpaw that Benoit Saint-Denis is facing as well. So that's a different look, a different thing altogether for Benoit and his UFC tenure. So for me, I think that Poirier can start to cook this guy a little bit later. If not, I can see it being a back-and-forth war. So it might be a bit of a sketchy start for Poirier. I think he can come into this fight. I think he can go long. I think he can start to put it on someone like Saint-Denis. And I really like that bet, plus 185. I'm seeing a lot of love from high-caliber predictors out there on the Saint-Denis side. And they're very, very, very confident in their laying big money down, far more than I ever could. But for me, it's dog or pass. I'm going to want to see a little bit more. I love Saint-Denis. I really do. His performances recently, which I've seen, have just been unreal, and he's been blowing through these guys. If he comes through here and blows through Poirier, I will be more than impressed. But he's minus 220. For me, you've got the plus 185. You've got the clear side, for me at least, in Poirier. But it could also turn out to be a bad bet because Saint-Denis, I do believe, is a good guy. And even if he loses this one, I still think he's going to be prevalent in that division going forward because, like I say, he will learn so much from facing a guy like Poirier and what he has to do to get better to move into that higher echelon of the division. But for me, Dustin Poirier, all day. That's an all-day bet for me in that one there. And the main event of the night, we have Sugar Sean O'Malley against Marlon Chito Vera in the main event of this one here. A rematch from 4 or 5 years ago, which, again, where is that time went? It's kind of crazy. And to see Chito Vera in a UFC title fight is crazy. I honestly didn't think I'd ever see him in a title fight because I didn't think he ever really had the capabilities of getting there. But what he's shown you in the last, 4 or 5 years is the guy is just so durable, very talented, got a drive and heart in him, which not many people, I think, in the UFC have. And he's a tough fucker to get out of there. If you give this guy opportunities, he will make you pay for it. You kind of have to, like, the only display that recently, which I've not really liked, is the Sandhagen one. And I bet Sandhagen heavy in that one because I just thought that he can mix it up a little bit more better than anybody else and really hurt Chito when he did. He kind of caught him like a rabbit in the headlights. And he was back against the cage, didn't know what to do. He was waiting for the grappling of Sandhagen and really didn't get into that fight. And the fact that somebody gave Chito that fight is still crazy to me. But going on their first fight here, we all know what happened. Sean rolled his foot after a couple of kicks from Chito. The fact that Sean's come out here and he's saying that it's not a legitimate win and, like, we know what happens if he's healthy. It doesn't matter what happened in that fight. Like, the fight still went to the ground. It was an elbow that absolutely rocked the shit of Sean O'Malley, that absolutely stopped him in his tracks and stopped the fight. And since then, he's been imperious. But I do think he has had some things go his way. The Piotr Jan fight, the like waiting about for the right type of matchup. He got the Aljo fight, which I think Aljo went into a little bit too confident, thinking he could do a little bit too much against this guy, and ultimately got caught with the boxing. Now that's something you love from Sean O'Malley. It's like he's shown that since his Contender Series days, where he absolutely can cook you with his striking. But if you're hard and durable, we've seen the Matinho fight. He landed so many strikes in that fight, and that guy was still in it in the third round and got a stoppage in the last minute or whatever it may be. Cheetos can take that and come back and still be there. This is another line that just doesn't make sense to me. Like minus 300 for Sean O'Malley when we've never seen him go 5 hard. We've seen him like, what if Cheeto comes out here in the first couple of minutes, lands some of these low kicks and really puts him under pressure with that and really hurts him? I think that's a defined possibility that could happen here. So again, this betting line just didn't make sense to me. It went up to plus, I think the highest it was over here in the UK was plus 225. I've never seen it any higher than that. That's an insta bet for me. I was on that, a unit and a half for me. And I've also bet Chito Vera to win in rounds 4, 5, or by decision at plus 400. So I'm taking some big dogs at the end of this card. Initially, I thought it was a favourite heavy card. Most of my predictions earlier on, you've got some close fights. Obviously, Almeida, Jan, the close moneyline fights. But the last 3 fights, I've picked 3 dogs here that I think are fairly decent, can win. And especially the last 2, I might be made to look rather silly with like having 2 dog plays, big dog plays to kind of finish the card. But I just think that those lines were high. And I just want to see, I've seen Cheeto beat Sean O'Malley. I've seen Cheeto yesterday at the press conference. He's going to have so much support in that arena for him. I think Sean O'Malley was a little bit taken aback yesterday, honestly, at the press conference with just how much support Cheeto had. And I want him to really finish the story, just him as a father and everything he's did for his daughter, and just how this guy, like Cheeto, has been talked about on Twitter for years. It's just been like, can you believe that he's a ranked fighter? Can you believe that he's this? He's not very good this, not very good that. He's really, really, really good, and he's worked his arse off to get where he is. Now, I think there are some matchups in that division which are terrible for him. This one, to me, is not one. I don't think O'Malley knocks him out. Initially, he could maybe piece him up. I think Cheeto's going to come into this fight and start to wear down Sean O'Malley and win rounds. So Marlon Cheeto Vera was going to be my Vera. It's going to be my last pick in this card, and hopefully some of those big dog plays I've got towards the end of this card come through. And I'm picking Marlon Vera to win in the late part of this fight, if not by decision. So I think the decision's like plus 750, 800. Not a bad look if you ask me, if you're on that side. So yeah. Right, guys. I'm going to hit the road, enjoy the fight card when it comes around tomorrow night. See that Danny said there he might have staff. That could also lead to maybe him late in the fight, maybe slowing down a little bit. But it looks a little bit better. I just seen him way in there, and it looks like it's kind of going away. But like I say, still truly can affect him. But yeah, guys, until next time, enjoy the fight card. UFC 299 is a banger. Enjoy. All the best.